There are many science fiction movies that make you feel fascinated. One of those films is Gravity. Join me on this journey. Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity is one of the most beautiful, terrifying, moving, and promising films about human survival we've ever seen. That's one review that can describe the film Gravity. It is one of the most shocking cinematic experiences, and certainly one of the best films we have ever seen. Gravity, which opened the curtain of the 70th Venice Film Festival, left the audience speechless, and we are going to analyze the reasons why. So let's start. The film was released in cinemas on October 4th, 2013, and received very positive reviews, considering it was a space masterpiece, and became a huge success with total receipts reaching $716.3 million. Received 10 Oscar nominations, including for Best Film and First Female Role for Bullock's performance, winning the Academy Award for Director and 6 other statuettes in technical categories. He was also awarded the Golden Globe for directing from a total of 4 nominations and 6 BAFTA out of a total of 11 nominations. Director and co-writer Cuarón brilliantly manages to create both awe at his glorious space vistas and knuckle-gobbling tension at what's happening in the foreground. You could find yourself asthmatically gasping with rapture and excitement at the same time. In order to give this film life, he worked for almost 4 years on how he would present this magnificent work. In a real and rare modern cinema delirium of visual perfection, choreographed action and great melodramatic intensity, Alfonso Cuarón in the film he seems to have wanted to direct all his life. Takes you into space from the first second of the opening, and he doesn't let you set foot on Earth until you have completed an existential thriller of an emotional roller coaster that annihilates with breakneck speed and constant turbulence all the distance that separates the awe of man's insignificance in the universe from terror in the face of absolute emptiness. Let's take a closer look at the film. Before we continue with our exploration of the film Gravity, be sure to like or dislike the video so that we can continue to improve and make these videos better for you, the viewer. Plus, be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of our weekly videos. Alfonso Cuarón's incredibly exciting, visually amazing film is about 2 astronauts floating in space. Sandra Bullock plays a scientific engineer, a scientist of genetics. Dr. Ryan Stone, who after 6 months of training, she travels for the first time in space to attach a high-tech new scanning device to the Hubble telescope. She is under the watchful supervision of Matt Kowalski, a genial and grizzled space veteran played by George Clooney. She is accompanied by Matt Kowalski, who is on his last flight before retiring. The voice of Houston Mission Control is played by Ed Harris, in playful homage to Ron Howard's 1995 space disaster classic Apollo 13. Only this time it is him telling them about the problem. Soon a terrifying situation unfolds. The ship disintegrates and Stone and Kowalski are left alone in space, hooked only to each other in an endless descent into darkness. Their deafening silence confirms that they have lost all contact with Earth and all hope of salvation. As fear turns into panic, every breath reduces the oxygen they have left. But the only way to return may require them to sink even further into the terrifying vastness of space as they try to survive. The expert astronaut's instructions will keep her alive until there's no other option. A return to base is a solution. The rope will be cut and Kowalski will leave her alone in space. And from this point on, the thriller will take a grotesque turn when Ryan is constantly confronted with death, but she keeps getting away with it. This happens either by finding accidental a fire extinguisher and extinguishing the fire from mechanical failure, or at a difficult time, Kowalski will appear and making the space-Earth route will keep it in rather than an upright on the T with death. There is 3-dimensional realism that leaves you speechless, a survival thriller that flirts with existential drama, and an adult sci-fi adventure that delivers as little Hollywood convenience as possible. It's obvious to think, even before you see Gravity, that a story with only two heroes lost in space brings with it an intense symbolism with inevitable metaphysical dimensions, and one or more thoughts about life and death. What's not at all obvious is that when you're up against Gravity and its three-dimensional splendor, you can no longer think of anything. It's not only a science fiction movie, but more of a contemporary space thriller. It's happening in real time. That is why it is so absorbing. The movie draws broadly on the style of that dystopian tradition stretching from Kubrick's 2001: Space Odyssey. It has some of their flashes of humor and horror and tension, but it is without cynicism or satire, without monsters or talking computers. A journey into space is filmed. We can see wandering above the skies and far away from the Earth, with two unique astronauts facing difficulties. This film demonstrates a story of fighting for survival in an endless space. There are images that keep the viewer's attention tense until the last minute from the universe. In this environment, the narrative is enriched by constant surprises and unexpected events, charged with intensity and breathtaking of the audience in several places. The camera's slow, descriptive, and often rotational movements familiarize the Doctor's perspective by identifying the viewer's gaze, thus increasing the emotions more. Also noticeable are the shots from afar, as are the lateral faces of the footage showing Dr. Stone inside a claustrophobic space vehicle curled up in a fetal posture, underscoring the vulnerability of human nature. The director seems to like the game with shapes and forms, creating a variety of visual effects, even with lights or splinters that fall rhythmically from above, forming a set that refers to spermatozoa. A series of contrasts are orchestrated in the chaotic vortex of the Doctor's movement, the vast outer space with the narrow interior, the huge large with the vastly small, the smallness of man in the face of the vastness of the universe, the female who, despite the feminist surface, seeks the hearth with the male, who fearlessly goes away, is free, rebels, and wanders. For Alfonso Cuarón, who starred on Mexican television and arrived in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban and the Oscar nominees, Gravity was a long-suffering life plan. He dealt with it for at least 6 years, changed studios and protagonists, and finally managed to do it on his own. Simple as ambitious, commercial adventure as well as a sought-after sci-fi drama, Gravity is a special, exceptional cinematic case that has already made history. This is because, apart from a technically great achievement, Emmanuel Lubezki's 3D photography is a visual miracle. It is also a model of a virtuoso balance between a creator's artistic vision and the strict imperatives of industry. As for the latter, the film bets on a hearty spectacle, which is realistically dazzling. The close-ups of the two protagonists, medical scientist Ryan Stone and experienced astronaut Matt Kowalski, against the backdrop of the vast Earth, are evocative. The silent scenes of destruction, especially that of the space station, incredibly plausible. Moreover, the frugal plot is reinforced with a few emotional eases, such as the story of her son Ryan, but also digestible, sequestering scripts, the last borderline naive part of the comeback effort, that flatter the viewer, thus preventing him from distancing himself. Alfonso Cuarón, who co-signs the script with his son Jonas, is well aware of the concessions he has had to make. It's not Kubrick, of course, but most of his colleagues would probably simplify things more, when they wouldn't embroider on the small and big details that make Gravity of a great depth. Claustrophobic and agonizing sensation, operatic magnificence, and philosophical quests, Alien, Solaris, 2001: The Space Odyssey, and also Apollo 13. Through them, the couple's desperate attempt, and in particular Ryan Stone, to return to Earth turns into an existential adventure that begins with the cord cutting, the cable that keeps the astronaut connected to the ship Matrix, and reaches the first man to walk on Earth. They mediate a path to endless emptiness, compromise with loss, the power of memory, and the games of imagination. Ideas that, even if refracted through a glossy Hollywood prism, are rare to meet in blockbusters of this range. Gravity is a brilliant and inspired movie cyclorama requiring neither gravity nor gravitas. This is a glorious imaginary creation that engulfs you utterly, helped by superlative visual effects design from Tim Weber, cinematography by Emmanuel Lubezki, and production design by Andy Nicholson. As you sit in the movie theater, you too will feel the entertainment G-forces puckering and rippling your face. If anyone asks me what Gravity is about, I'll tell them it's a tense adventure about a space mission gone wrong. But once they've seen and absorbed the movie, they'll know the truth. The root word of Gravity is grave. That's an adjective meaning weighty or glum or substantial. But it's also a noun, the place where we'll all end up eventually. The film is about that moment when you suffered misfortune that seemed unendurable and believed all hope was lost and that you might as well curl up and die, and then you didn't. Why did you decide to keep going? It is a mystery as great as any in physics or astronomy, and one we've all grappled with and transcended. Since its release, various specialist observers have unsportingly emerged to say that the science involved in Gravity is fanciful and wrong. No matter, what makes Gravity so gripping and so novel is that it behaves as if what everyone is doing is happening in a world of commonplace fact, like a movie about two drivers on a runaway train or a hot air balloon. A movie set in space tends to trigger an assumption that it is set in the future. To sum up, Alfonso Cuarón is one of the quietest creators in Hollywood, having made high-end films such as Great Expectations, I Want and Your Mom, Children of Men. Here it attempts to climb level with a film groundbreaking and unusual for blockbuster data, a bold venture crowned with almost absolute success both on an artistic level and in a collectible that has been scanned wherever it was aired. No film since 2001: A Space Odyssey has so fully communicated the absoluteness of space, its impossible vastness, its obliterating void, yet Gravity is existential in a real sense. After it's over, you'll definitely feel stronger, not just for what man can accomplish, but for what it takes to make him believe that he can make it through the great and enduring struggle, as it is important to mention that this film is essentially about a struggle to try to get out of space and into Earth. The movie has one of the best special effects to make the film as wonderful and incredible as possible. It is a strict thriller from start to finish, and it is so well directed that it is absolutely stunning. The 3D is also very impressive as they are up there floating around, so visually it is very extraordinary. Also, in some points there is a real perspective as we are there, and we feel like we are in that suit, having a hard time breathing and losing gravity. And what we can learn one more time is that as humans we want to survive, and we are capable of doing anything. When we face difficulties, we find the courage to get everything on the right track again. We have an inner power that makes us face everything, but in order to do it, it is important to want it so bad. If there is a true willing, we can do everything. Keep that in mind. Thanks for watching, everyone. I would really like to know your opinion regarding the film Gravity. Do you think it is one of the most stunning films of all times? Did you like it? Did it make you feel like you were part of the story, trying to get back to Earth? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll